Hello friends, Clage back today with another Punishing Grey Raven character guide, and we are going to be talking about our newest physical tank, the beautiful and glorious Hanying Solacetune. Going to go over all the things you need to know, including evolutions, her equipment, recommendations, team building, and of course I'll do combat demonstrations, teach you how to play the character, and all that good stuff. So let's get going right in, because we all know my videos are way too long for their own good anyway, but let's start with Hanying's evolutions. So at S5, she will trigger QTEs when casting ult. Pretty standard S5. Almost every character gets this perk at S5. At double S, she will gain some core passive gauge on Bring In. Her unique green orb will give her a free 3-ping. If you don't fill up her ult gauge while you were in the ult mode, you can continue tapping the ult button to use 3 orb pings and fill the gauge all the way up. And then her ult damage will also increase, and her defense shred is doubled, which is very, very nice. Double S is the bare minimum you should want from this character. Double S is what allows her kit to really function as it's meant to do. Double S3 is actually a pretty powerful upgrade for a double S3. She will get a 3-ping on Bring In. Her damage will increase during her ultimate form. She gets even more physical defense shred. And she gets more Ultima Slash stacks. Ultima Slash is one of the new elemental properties. You've probably seen them on the UI for certain characters. That mechanic is not actually implemented in terms of combat yet. You can see it stacking up when you're doing various modes. But the new elemental affixes are not actually active in the game yet. So I will talk about Ultima Slash, Glaciation, all that good stuff when we get to the patch where we actually start seeing that content. But just know that Hanying is a key member of the Ultima Slash team, and getting her to double S3 helps facilitate that team. So something to keep in mind about that particular upgrade. Triple S, you will get more physical and Ultima Slash damage. She gets even more damage from her ultimate, even more physical defense shred. And a nice little perk on Triple S is the swap cooldown for your characters is lowered by 3 seconds. So you're able to swap in characters much quicker. Nice quality of life, can be very handy in some more difficult game modes. So very nice buff at Triple S. Triple S3, 6, and Triple S Plus, of course, the usual stuff. Increase damage, increase the core passive damage, increase the ult damage. Pretty straightforward. As for the recommendation, bare minimum should be double S. You will want to get her double S to run her standard kit and have her rotation feel good and not overly clunky. Double S also, the extra shred is really, really important to make sure she can start getting towards the same amount of shred that Rosetta could get to, as we are retiring Rosetta. Thank you for a boatload of years of service. Good lord, that girl has been holding down the physical tank slot for a long time. But double S should be your minimum stopping point. Again, 1 copy plus pain cage skulls, like, pretty easy to get to. Will definitely make the character feel a lot better. If you are willing to go for a second copy, double S3 is a very notable upgrade. One of the better double S3 upgrades I've seen in a while. She is not like Corinna Nashir. She does not need double S3 to function. Her gameplay works just fine without it, but it is definitely one of the nicer double S3 buffs out there. So let's talk about her weapon. So the 5-star weapon is usable. It will make her rotation more clunky, and you will struggle to get the maximum damage on her ultimate. Basically, what will happen is you will struggle to fill her ult gauge all the way up while you are in her ultimate form, which is a notable damage loss. So if you can at all afford it, the 6-star signature weapon is highly, highly recommended. It gives her 20% more physical defense shred, which is a pretty notable increase in damage for not just her, but the entire physical team. And on top of it, it's much easier to facilitate her intended rotation and to make her work as you want to when you are playing the various game modes. So definitely recommend the 6-star weapon if at all possible. It is very, very nice for her. If you do get the 6-star weapon, your resonance priorities, number 1 is always going to be domain deconstruction, the increased tank effect. This is what you should be resonating first on every single new tank. It's a very powerful resonance. After that, deadline timing. Deadline timing really, really smooths out her orb usage and also facilitates her more preferred memory set to be used. We'll get to that in just a moment. If you want to go full baller and have a third resonance, you can do Matrix Lightning or Incandescence. Of course, if you want, you can swap off Deadline Timing for one of these if you're doing shorter fights like Pain Cage. Resonances are not required for this character. She does not need them to function, but with most tank characters, a single resonance at least to get the increased resistance shred is always very, very welcome, so definitely recommended if you can afford it. Next, let's talk memory sets. So, if you are at SS or below, you're going to want to do her 4-piece set, Chongwuzi. This is used on every single memory equipment set she uses. You're always going to want to use her signature set, as you do with pretty much every character ever these days. But if you are at SS or below, what you're going to want to do is, instead of using Patent, you're going to want to go ahead and run Tukati. And then if you harmonize her, as you should be harmonizing all the new S ranks. If you have their signature weapon, you will take it to the 4-piece Kati. This helps smooth out her ultimate energy gain and just makes the rotation work a little bit better. If you are at SS3 or you are at SS but running her signature weapon with the Deadline Timing resonance, you can run her preferred build, which is to run 2-piece Patent instead of 2-piece Kati. Patent is a notable damage increase over Kati for this character, but you are going to have to either be at SS3 or at SS with her weapon and having Deadline Timing. Otherwise, the rotation will not work for 2 ult rotations on her. But this is your in-game goal if you can get her to that amount. Like I said, either Deadline Timing on the weapon at SS, or if you're willing to roll a third copy, get her SS3, then you can run Patent with impunity. So, highly recommended to get this if you can. It's a pretty notable damage increase, but if you are saving, her signature set plus Kati works just fine. Lastly, let's talk about her Cub. So, Cub is probably the least important part of Hanying's kit by a pretty notable amount. It does come with the usual good buffs. You can get the increased damage to physical, and of course get the increased damage when using the active skill. These are always nice perks to have. Dreamwing does not have any enemy grouping. Instead, it comes with a short stun, so it will stun all enemies on the field for a couple seconds, which is some nice utility, especially in harder content. But if you are going to skip on one thing for Hanying, the Cub is far and away the least important thing. She does not require it to function. It does not take away from her overall game plan whatsoever. So if you need to save some cards, this is easily the first thing you should be cutting. So, in terms of priorities when rolling Hanying and kitting her out, first and foremost is, of course, get her to SS. Rolling 1 copy and then getting her to SS, again, is the bare minimum. This is what you should do for all new S-rank constructs, and Hanying is no different. Second priority after getting her to SS is absolutely the weapon. The weapon smooths out a rotation. That extra shred is a lot of damage, and it will just make Hanying feel much, much, much better to play. If you need to hold off on the weapon for a while, as always, you can always go get it at the 80% rate up whenever you need to, but this is definitely recommended once you've secured your first copy and got her to SS. After you have the weapon, the next upgrade I would prioritize is actually getting her to SS3. This is a very, very nice upgrade, as I said. It will help allow her to run her preferred memory set, and the increased shred and decreased overall time it takes to get her ult gauge fills up is very handy. So, worth getting if you're willing to roll 2 copies of the character. Absolutely will pay dividends in the long term. After that, you can move on to going to SS or SS Plus if you're a whale. And lastly, the Cub, again, is probably the lowest priority you have. So if you're a spender, feel free to grab the Cub. Feel free to go above SS3, but SS and her weapon is a very good starting point, especially if you are saving for future characters like Lucia Pyroath. So now let's talk teams for Hanying. So let's just pick a mode here so I can go into team building. So, the meta team will, of course, be Alyssa Echo running as our amplifier. Bianca now is going to act as a sub-DPS. And, of course, Hanying is going to be the leader and the main damage dealer for the physical team going forward. So, in longer fights, what you will want to do is you will be running Alyssa with her 4-piece Signa, her signature set, and 4-piece Da Vinci harmonized to her 6-star weapon. She will be your Da Vinci proc for long-term fights, Warzone, all that good stuff. When you are doing longer-term fights with Bianca, she moves to a sub-DPS. What you're going to want to do with her is have her 4-piece Charlotte signature set on, and then you are going to want to make sure you have 2-piece Catherine. I'm currently harmonizing it because that's just what I had available. You're definitely going to want Catherine no matter what. That 2-piece bonus is very nice, just overall damage increase for when she's on the field. And then after that, you can either run 2-piece Cotty or 2-piece Leeuwenhoek. Either of these are fine. I tend to prefer Cotty, especially with the new team. Bianca doesn't need to see as much field time. She doesn't need to get multiple ult rotations in. So getting her in, getting her ult off quicker, and then swapping her out is going to be a preferred method, especially if you have Hanying well invested, i.e. getting her to double S3 with her signature weapon. But feel free to run Leeuwenhoek if your investment in Bianca fits better with that. But always make sure you're running her signature set and at least 2-piece Catherine somewhere. It does not matter where you put these. You can put the Catherine on the bar and harmonize Cotty or Leeuwenhoek. You can put Leeuwenhoek on the bar. There's no particular difference overall in the amount of damage going there. So, for shorter fights, what you're going to do is Alyssa will be swapping over to a more support-oriented set, and what you're going to do is run her 4-piece signature set, and then 2-piece Philip while harmonizing 2-piece Philip. So we would swap off Da Vinci, move over to the 4-piece Philip setup, because Alyssa won't be seeing field time when we are in short fights like Pain Cage, so the healing drone perk is actually very nice in that mode. For short-term fights with Bianca, she becomes a buffing bot. She no longer will be doing any damage or seeing the field, ideally. So what we are going to do is swap her over to a Da Vinci setup. And what we are going to run instead is going to be 2-piece Voltaire. This is a 5-piece set. Reduces target's defense by 10%. This will happen when she does QTE. Of course, you're going to run 4 Da Vinci, so she can be the Da Vinci bot. And then after that, you're going to want to run 2 Catherine once again. So, again, this is a very nice thing. The QTE will help reduce the shred. So, basically, Bianca just becomes a buff bot. That is all she is there to do. Very straightforward, very simple. With Bianca, you do not need to resonate any of these. You do not need to hypertune any of these. Her overall attack and stuff will not matter. She is literally just a buffer for short fights like Pain Cage. In Alyssa's case, for the shorter fights, if you want to go ahead and resonate the class skill on the lower resonance to increase the potency of the amplifier skill, feel free. It is a minor damage increase. For the shorter fights, you do not have to hypertune and resonate the off-kilter set. Feel free to ignore that if you're running low on hypertune materials or resonance materials. But if you want a little bit of extra damage, it's fine to do. Again, Bianca, there's absolutely no point in resonating or hypertuning the buff set. One thing I did forget to mention real quick, resonating the memories for Hanying. Lower, you're going to want core passive. This is non-negotiable. This character's damage is all stacked up in her core passive, so you're going to want all 6 slots to be core passive on the bottom. Up top, you're going to want attack 15 and crit 15, because as a physical unit, Hanying actually gets to benefit from crit. So that's always super nice to have available. Make sure you get exactly this role up top. With the new farming setup and our ability to hoard farming currency and the ability to reroll resonances with memory chips, this is a lot less painful to get done, but this is what you'll be wanting to shoot for on Hanying's setup. So that covers the teams and all of that good stuff. So I am going to go ahead and get into the training mode, and we're going to go over the combat demonstrations, and I will teach you how to play Hanying. Alrighty, so let's go over combat tutorial for Hanying here. So, as we go in, I'll bring her in. Her bring in attack will be a quick slash. Of course, Alyssa's bot will do the thing. For her basic attacks, pretty basic string. goes forward here. You will not be using basic attacks with this character if you can help it at all. However, if you are below double S3 or do not have the 6-star weapon, you will want to weave in some basic attacks just to make sure you do not fall short of your ultimate startup energy and all that good stuff. But let's talk about the actual mechanics that matter. So first and foremost, the Ultima Slash icon here. Again, you do not need to worry about this right now. This mechanic is not implemented in actual combat yet. We will talk about the new elemental fixes next patch. So feel free to just ignore Ultima Slash stacks for now. They are not doing anything, so no sweat there. As you can see, Hanying has a particularly unique set of orbs, as a lot of the new characters do. When she is outside of ult form, she only has red and yellow orbs. However, they do not work like typical orbs do. So as you can see up here, we have the musical note orbs. These are what you ping to build up her core passive gauge. So this is what builds up to use her ultimate. So how this works is if you ping a red orb, it will ping a single of the musical note orb. If you ping a yellow orb, it will ping 3 of them at once. Important to note that the yellow orb, while using 3 of these, only gives half of the usual increase to the core passive gauge. So the vast majority of time, you're going to be spamming the red orb till you fill the gauge to get into her ultimate form, and then you will use her ultimate. So let's go ahead and do a quick reset here so I can kind of show you what it looks like when you bring her in and what you should look to do. This will kind of be the start of the rotation as well. Don't worry, I'll go through the whole thing at once, but just for the sake of kind of giving you the basics. So how you play this character is actually very straightforward. Hanying is very simple to play, does not require a lot of complexity. She feels very comfortable overall. But we're going to bring her in, and then we are going to tap red orb 6 times. That will create this special green orb here after you fill the gauge completely. Tapping this will give her a bunch of ultimate energy, and we can go into ult form. So in her ult form, as you can see, we only have blue orbs available. You are not going to be pinging these manually for any reason unless you are either below the double S3 threshold, don't have her signature weapon, or you may have had a mistake somewhere in the rotation you need to make up for. We'll talk about how the blue orbs work in a moment, though. But once you are in her ult form, what you're going to do is you're going to tap the ultimate button. Just tap, don't hold, and she will go into her dashing slash motion. So you tap this 3 times, 4 if you're using the patent set, and then hold ultimate to actually cast the ultimate, and then we will go back to base form. So pretty straightforward in how she works. When you're not in ult form, you're going to ping the red orbs to fill the gauge and eventually build up enough orbs to get the green orb. You'll trigger the green orb. That will give you enough ult to cast her ultimate form. You go into ult and go from there. So in general, again, you're not going to be using basic attack unless you need to weave to build energy. You do have to be mindful of how you use her ultimate and how spammy you get with the buttons. If you're not careful, you will throw off her rotation. So let's go over how to avoid those pitfalls real quick. So one more time, let me go out. We'll start from scratch here. So again, here's the order of operations we're looking for. We're going to bring Hanying in. We're going to ping 6 red orbs to create the green orb. That will fill the ultimate gauge. Ultimate gauge goes off. Then we're going to tap ultimate 3 times if you are using Kadi. If you are at double S or below and using the 2-piece Kadi or 4-piece harmonized Kadi, or if you are at double S3 but still not using her patent setup for whatever reason, you will tap ult 3 times before you hold ult for her actual ultimate. If you are using the patent set, you will need to tap ultimate 4 times because we're not getting as much energy build from the Kadi set in that case. So since I'm running the patent set, you're going to see me tap ultimate 4 times instead of 3, but just keep in mind which set you're running and how you apply this. So let's go through the whole rotation real quick. So bring in Hanying. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tap the green orb, go into ult. Tap 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold ult, call your 2 TEs. And now we're back in base form. Tap again. And same thing again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. And at this point, Hanying will be out of orbs, and you swap into Bianca. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Very, very easy to do. Let me go over this one more time. Let me talk about some potential pitfalls you can fall into when playing the character. Basically, you just have to be careful with how hard you mash. As long as you are not overly mashing with Hanying, you will be fine. But to show you what happens, if you bring her in and let's say you're just really hammering that red button, you're not paying attention, and you accidentally use some orbs, when you go into ult, what's going to happen is after you go through the ult rotation and you come back out, you're going to be short. And now, when we go into ult rotation, not quite enough. Not quite enough to trigger full ult. And that's with me running both deadline timing and her signature weapon and having her at triple S. So, you got to make sure you count your orbs very carefully. You can also run into the same problem by mashing on her signature too fast. Let me explain how that works. So when we go into the signature part of the rotation, if you tap ultimate too many times, what's going to happen is you're going to start using her blue orbs to continue doing the ult attacks, and that's going to leave you short of orbs to get back into ultimate and then cast your full ultimate a second time. So if we bring her in, we tap our orbs carefully, green comes up, we go into ultimate. So if I start spam tapping ultimate, just mashing, and I tap a couple times, see how we use blue orbs? So if we go into ult now, when we come out, we are going to be massively short on orbs. See, not even close. Not a good look. So just make sure you're counting, being careful with how quickly you're mashing out the red orb to get into ultimate, and then tapping the ultimate button the correct amount of times. Again, if you are running the Kadi memory set, you're going to tap 3 times before you hold ult. If you're running Patton, you'll tap 4 before you hold ult. One other little thing to note about how her orbs work. So, for shorter fights, if you want to get to the ultimate quicker, this is going to be relevant on either older physical weak pain cage bosses or like the first level of newer high-end physical pain cage bosses. So the bosses that are more new, have more HP, or just generally tankier. If you are on like the first level, you can get away with doing a little bit of a shorter rotation. And how that's going to work is when you bring her in, we're going to do 3 red orbs followed by a yellow orb. As you can see, this gets us into ultimate quicker, but now we have less gauge. So we're going to have to use those blue orbs to actually cast ult. And then when we get back, we're going to be out to try and get back into the standard rotation. So the yellow orb is useful. It is a thing you can use to slightly speed up quicker pain cage fights. But outside of that, you never want to be using the yellow orb. Only other exception would be if you are at the end of a war zone run, for example, and you need to get one more ult out to clear that wave before the timer runs out. That would be another good reason to resort to using the yellow orb to get into her ultimate stance. So that covers the rotation. You go through her ult rotation twice, then you swap her out to Bianca. Bianca will do her rotation. You swap to Alyssa. She'll do her ult rotation. And by the time that's done, Hanying should be back and ready to come on the field and do 2 more of her ult rotation. And that's it. That's the entire physical team now. Pretty simple and straightforward. I'm going to have some videos here to kind of show you how it works for both longer and shorter fights. So let me get those queued up, and I will be right back. Alrighty, so I've got some combat demonstrations on deck for y'all. I'm going to start with a longer fight. Unfortunately, no Pain Cage Warzone this week, so I wasn't able to do a Warzone demonstration, and for whatever reason, we don't have Outliers in Warzone, which is a little annoying when I'm trying to make vids like this, but we'll make do. So I just went into Norman and fought the very last physical boss. In this case, it's Trailblazer. So this is going to show you what it looks like to run through the physical team in the longer fights, where Alyssa is your Da Vinci proc, and Bianca acts as a sub DPS. So we go right into it. Bring Hanying in. We do our 6 red orb pings. Green orb into ult. Go into ult mode. Tap ult 4 times in my case because I'm using Patton. Hold ult. Call her QTEs. Repeat this rotation 1 more time. 6 orbs. Green. Fill up the gauge with a couple more of the singular orbs. Tap. Hold ult. Something important to note right here. If you want to delay ever so slightly, you can do a couple basic attacks in the ult mode to bring the QTE procs back up. But not necessary whatsoever if you're just trying to get through waves as quickly as possible, but just something to note. So 2 rotations of Hanying, then we bring in Bianca. You all know this rotation by now. Get her into ult mode. She does ult. Wait just long enough for the QTEs to proc back up. They come up. We go into Bianca's ult, call her QTEs. Then Alyssa will come in, start her rotation. Pretty standard here. Trigger the cutscene because we're in Norman, and that's what we do. Alyssa procs ult, trigger your QTEs, and then we are back to Hanying already. That's the full team. There's the full ult rotation right there. This will work for any long-term fight, Warzone, Norman, high-end content like Babel. These are all viable options. But just remember, you're always going to go for 2 ult rotations with Hanying, and then you're going to be tapping ultimate 3 times on the Kadi memory set, 4 times on the Patton memory set. But as you can see, very smooth rotation, very simple to play. All right, so up next I have a pain cage example for you. This is just going to be the standard pain cage rotation, not utilizing any yellow orbs or anything to try and speed up the fight or anything like that, but pretty straightforward. Again, you'll have Bianca on her buffing set, and Alyssa will swap over to the Philip support set. So bring in Hanying. I like to ping Alyssa's yellow arrow to bring her closer to the boss, and it's just a quick bout of free damage. We don't need to do this anymore because bring-ins now hit the bosses from way further away than they used to, so this isn't a big problem, especially against newer bosses like Skyche, where they start us pretty close. But just something to note that you can fire off her arrow if you want. You will not want to call the QTE like you did before with Rosetta because Bianca's our Da Vinci bot in this case, so we don't want to bring her in because we want to save that for the ult proc. But same thing, bring in 6 red orbs, green orb, ult. Tap ult 4 times if you're on Patton, 3 times if you're on Kadi. And call TTEs, do the ult. Easy peasy. Dead right there. And of course, Skyche is brand new, so he is the tankiest physical boss right now. So as you can see, Hanying can absolutely shred even the newest, toughest bosses. Pretty strong all in all. But let's take a look at the sped up version utilizing a yellow orb next. All right, so same fight, same difficulty, but in this case, we're going to speed up the rotation ever so slightly by doing the 3 red pings into a single yellow ping, and then using the extra blue orbs to finish up getting full ultimate gauge. So as you can see, we bring in 1, 2, 3. I've already got halfway there. You're going to see me tap the yellow, go into ult, and then we're going to go ult down. 1 ult uses the blue orbs. We hold there. QTE. Dunzo. Ever so modest increase. If you cannot kill the boss in a single ult rotation, this will not be faster in any way. It will only buff, or it will only cause your rotation to fall apart. So again, this is only for older physical bosses that Hanying is easily going to one-shot with a single rotation, or for the first level of newer physical bosses that are a bit more tanky. But that's the only difference. You do 3 red, 1 yellow. Otherwise, the rest of the rotation is completely identical. All right, so one last one for you. Just going to do the hell difficulty of Skyche so you can see the full PPC rotation. In this case, you're going to need 2 ultimates to finish the job because of the increased tankiness, so I just want to show what that looks like real quick. In this case, we bring in, do our 6 red orbs, fill out the gauge, green orb, ult. I'm going to tap ult full times because I'm on Patton. Again, if you're on Kadi, only tap it 3, then hold ult, call the QTEs, and then 6 red orbs again. Green orb, and then I like to tap 2 more to get the gauge completely full and go from here. And there you go. Hell difficulty done. So you can see Hanying's rotation is pretty much identical no matter what you're doing. It's just a matter of if you want to ping that yellow orb to do a quick kill on a very short fight. But otherwise, it's always the same. 6 red orbs, go into ult, tap ult the requisite number of times to get enough ult stacks. Hold the ult button, repeat that rotation 1 more time. That's it. That's Hanying. You've learned the whole character. So a lot less little nuances and details for this one than there have been for a couple of the other characters, which is kind of nice. So this should be pretty easy for you all to pick up. So let me get back into game and we will wrap up this guide. All right, and that is going to do it for the Hanying guide. So, the TLDR about this character, she is incredibly strong. She is absolutely gorgeous. She has some of the most beautiful animations I have seen in this game. I love the way they designed this character. The animations look wonderful. But not only that, she is just strong. This character is very, very, very strong. She is a massive, massive buff for the physical team. Not only is she a more capable tank than Rosetta by orders of magnitude, but now all of our physical units have time stop on their ultimates, and that is a big deal for obvious reasons. Not only is Hanying going to be a must in the physical team going forward, but again, she also is essential to the Ultima Slash teams once we start getting the new elemental affixes in the next patch. So do not skip this character. You will really, really regret skipping Hanying. She is very, very powerful. She's really fun to play. She feels very satisfying to use. If you need to hold off on getting her weapon, her cub, or further evolutions because you are saving for Pyroath or any of the other characters coming down the pipe here in the near future thanks to the global sync, of course, feel free to do that. But at bare minimum, definitely pull one copy, get her to double S through the pain cage, and that will get you going very, very well out the gate. So let me know if you have any questions, any more inquiries on how to build or what you think you should prioritize. If you've got questions because you're debating how many black cards you want to spend on this patch and all that good stuff, feel free to ask. I'll always try to answer those down in the comments. If you want to like, subscribe, do all the fun YouTube stuff to help boost the algorithm for me, it's always appreciated. I'm still very, very pleased with where PGR has gotten my YouTube channel in a very short time. So thank you once again for all the support on that. I really appreciate it. You all have been very kind, and it's really cool that so many other people are checking out this game that I love and geek out over and talk at you for way too long about. So yeah, enjoy Hanying. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. If I made any mistakes or I need to correct anything, I'll leave that down in the comments as well. I am definitely not infallible, so if I mess anything up, I'll take care of that in post and post a comment for everyone. But that's all I got for now, so thank you so much for watching. I will have more stuff for the Soaring Beyond very soon. Wanshi will be available later this evening, so I will start learning him. I will get a character guide for him in the very near future. And we have some other important modes and banners coming in this patch that I'll do some content on as well, so look forward to that. And that's all I got for now, so thank you so much for watching. Y'all take care, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace for now.